Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Well, first tonight, Tasmania Police has netted $1 million ice haul intercepted in the postal system. Authorities have warned they're still targeting drug trafficking operations despite coronavirus disruptions.
A $1 million delivery interrupted. This 1 kilogram haul of methamphetamine or ice uncovered at Mornington's Australia Post facility yesterday.
This highly addictive drug ice was concealed in mail packages and intercepted by members of Tasmania Police.
A team descending on the centre, including Aggie from the dog squad. Police saying the operation was agile, ramping up quickly, alleging the drugs came from Victoria and further evidence was seized.
Potentially 10,000 individual deal bags have been intercepted by police and removed from the public, which is a really significant result, and it's in furtherance of protecting our community.
A man and a woman charged with a major drug trafficking offence. 32-year-old Lisa Lynn Harwood from Goodwood today refused bail and remanded in custody. 25-year-old Joshua James Barter from Belrive granted bail. But it's not the first time drugs have been allegedly discovered at the facility.
I think we'd be naive to think that this is an isolated activity. It's about breaking the business model. This is part of breaking that business model.
Saying coronavirus border shutdowns could lead to a spike in drug prices. Police affirming they won't let a global pandemic disrupt their work.
For the offenders out there who think that they can get away with this and they're dealing with a law enforcement group that has its back turned, completely wrong. We're actually watching you.
Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government has conceded difficult decisions will need to be made over public service wages as it faces a prospect of a budget blowout. Meanwhile, Michael Ferguson has come under fire following allegations by Labor he's taking credit for coronavirus hardship grants. The ministers called the comments a smear.
The difference one day can make.
I made the point the other day that I'd stop speaking to you because I couldn't trust you.
I just want to clearly put on the record today my thanks to the 25, to all of us in this place.
Ending on a warm note as Parliament breaks for winter, Peter Gutwin concedes tough times might be ahead for the public sector as the government looks to pay off the pandemic bill.
In coming weeks and months, we will need to sit down and look at some very difficult decisions. Decisions that I must admit I don't look forward to.
Labor argues the road to recovery lies in consumer confidence.
It would be the wrong move for the government to think they could make budget savings by cutting the wages or freezing the salaries of public sector workers.
A decision on giving senior public servants a pay bump has been postponed until November. Unions are calling it
a wedge that they are going to use with all public sector workers across the state.
But from the Greens,
a temporary pause on a pay increase for already pretty well paid public service managers is very hard to argue against.
Labor also hurtling allegations Michael Ferguson has been personally calling successful applicants of COVID hardship grants.
Presumably to try and claim credit for their support, the support they're receiving from the Tasmanian taxpayer.
He says the calls were in fact about business support loans, which he is responsible for.
Not only should Labor withdraw this false allegation, which is intended to smear, these have been some of the most touching conversations that I've had with the Tasmanian business community. I have had people in tears on the phone.
Meanwhile, Victoria has recorded a frightening 33 new COVID cases, the biggest spike there in 11 weeks. With Tasmanians now waiting on tomorrow's border announcement from the Premier, it could be the one day that makes all the difference. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Another battle has been won in the war against plastic pollution. Launceston City Council is adopting a new policy to phase out single-use plastics at events, markets and activities on land it manages. The plan has been officially endorsed today, bringing in the ban by 2022. The council says alternatives could be compostable and reusable packaging. The government's plan to drive our economy out of recession has been given a further boost, with another $46 million investment into upgrading roads across the state. The peak motoring body is welcoming the news, but one economist is warning other sectors should have been given more priority, as they're at risk of losing more jobs due to the pandemic.
Walking the road to recovery. A further $46 million announced today from the state and federal governments for road upgrades, including here at Richmond. It's in addition to already promised funding.
Record funding into roads over the next couple of years here in Tasmania. These are projects that can happen quickly. These are projects that can maintain employment and grow employment, and we want to keep people in jobs.
We'll be strengthening the pavement with upgrades right around the state, highways like the West Homer Highway, the Arthur Highway, all around the state. We're going to be doing a major intersection upgrade on the Huon Highway.
Also on the agenda, road safety. Roadside barriers and bridge strengthening outlined as priorities, as well as adding electronic speed signs in school zones, an area of particular concern according to the RACT.
In and around school zones, there are always concerns about the level of traffic and, in fact, speeding in those areas. So putting in place that infrastructure is vitally important to ensure that our children remain safe on the roads.
While the additional investment into the state is welcomed by many, there's concern construction is the centre of focus. A leading economist saying money should be earmarked for other industries equally affected by the pandemic.
What I'm suggesting is that in addition to what they've announced on infrastructure and the boosts that they've provided for housing construction, the government ought to be looking at other measures to affect sectors which do employ larger proportions of women and young people.
The arts sector, culture sector, tourism, hospitality, commercial accommodation. We are staring down the barrel of a big gap in support between the current programs and the money that will come into the state months down the track.
This is going to be of meaningful support and encouragement to industry, including the tourism sector, but also agricultural and production businesses that want to get goods to market, get the next contract for supply and employ more Tasmanians.
Projects are set to get underway in coming months. Ebony Ablett, 7 Tasmanian News.
A proposal to lower speed limits in Hobart CBD has progressed to the next stage. The plans would see the limit drop to 30 kilometres an hour on stretches of Elizabeth, Collins and Liverpool streets. Other parts of the CBD, excluding Macquarie and Davey streets, would come down to 40. Last night, the Hobart City Council's Infrastructure Committee endorsed the plan after hearing from the Road Safety Advisory Council and Hart Foundation. Next step, the full council. It will have its say on the idea in 2 weeks. Tasmania's agricultural shows have been offered a new lifeline. Depending on patronage at their last show, they can get between $10,000 and $70,000 for operational costs. They'll also be able to claim unrecoverable money spent on shows that had to be cancelled.
The $36 million announced by the Prime Minister to support these shows will enable them to recoup some of those costs that they've incurred in getting a show ready to go but have been unable to hold. So that means they won't be on the doorstep of bankruptcy, they won't be folding, they'll be back next year.
The Royal Agricultural Society of Tasmania says it's receiving $500,000, which will secure the future of the Hobart show. And the scheme should see most of our state's 24 shows survive. Weeks after cancelling this year's football season, NTFA bosses are hatching a new plan to give players game time. The association has announced a new opt-in series which will begin on July 18. It will feature a seniors, under 21 and women's division, with 9 clubs expressing interest in the spin-off competition. Management says it will help satisfy the demand for football in the region while uniting communities in this tough time. The streets won't be packed for this year's Burnie 10, but the race is far from cancelled. Organisers have made this year's run a virtual event due to the virus pandemic. Competitors will be allowed to choose their own course and record their own time. The race will take place over the weekend of October 17 and 18. It's hoped the event will return as normal next year. The state's soccer players will be back within weeks, with Football Tasmania announcing a return date for its top-level senior competitions. A major support package has also been unveiled, helping cushion the blow of COVID-19.
For more than 3 months, not a ball has been kicked, not a whistle blown, not a goal celebrated. But today came the news the soccer fraternity had been eagerly awaiting.
You're grinning, is that because football's back?
Yeah, I'm so excited that football's coming back.
More than a week after announcing junior soccer's return, the seniors also have a start date. The men's and women's knockout competitions, along with the Under-20s Cup, will resume on July 11. The following week, the top flight NPL and WSL leagues will kick off too.
We know that the football community are desperate to get out there, particularly the players, obviously, but even the volunteers, the coaches and everyone involved.
Football Tasmania shifting the goalposts ahead of the restart, a shortened season, a late spring end date, as well as $300,000 in fee relief to all battling clubs.
That goes across team nomination fees, referee fees and registration fees.
Teams are fine-tuning preparations, training in small hubs ahead of the upcoming round. Coronavirus health precautions will be in place, maybe not enough to stifle team celebrations.
As a unit, you get really excited on the field, so high fives will still be a thing, I'm sure.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. Temperatures sat between 1 and 3 above average today. Hobart 15 degrees, Launceston, Burnie and Devonport all 14. 16 was the high around the state at Friendly Beaches and Grove. King Island and St Helens 15. Flinders Island, Smithton and Strawn 14. Lowhead 13 and Lyalweenie 8 degrees. Another cloudy day with widespread showers from that band of low to mid-level cloud that crossed the state. Now cold air is trailing that front to our west. The rest of the country is mainly clear apart from some high cloud over central Australia. Tomorrow the high over the southeast extends ridges far and wide. The next cold front approaches Western Australia. Winds west to southwesterly at 20 to 30 knots, easing to 15 to 20 knots over most waters, swells to 4 metres in western waters. A strong wind warning for all Tasmanian coastal waters. We also have a minor flood warning for the South Esk, Jordan and Macquarie rivers, and the flood warning for the Cole River continues. Friday in Hobart, partly cloudy and 12. 11 the top for Huonville with a shower in the air, and partly cloudy for Campania, 13 the maximum. Launceston 13, early fog clearing, partly cloudy for Devonport, 13 degrees and 12 degrees for Georgetown, bit of cloud about. 13 for Burnie and partly cloudy, a shower for Strawn, 12 the top and 13 the high for Wynyard. St Helens a top of 13, mostly sunny, bit of cloud over Swansea but fine, and 13 and 10 the high for Port Arthur, a windy day with a shower. There's Saturday's forecast, fine and mostly sunny apart from a light shower over the west, a frosty start for some. A similar forecast for Sunday with temperatures in the mid-teens, and on Monday morning inland frost followed by a fine day with light winds. Showers increasing later for Perth, partly cloudy for Adelaide and Melbourne, a cold day for Canberra, a frosty start with 12 later, sunny in Sydney and Brisbane. Mostly cloudy in Hobart, 11 right now, 10 in Launceston, clear in Devonport and 10 degrees. Big news in sport, Kim, the AFL Grand Final at the SCG. So that makes it a home game for the Swans this year.
Oh, you wish, you wish. No, it does not. That's all your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. See you tomorrow.